He sold his entire company, everything he'd spent 15 years building just to pay for the surgery that saved his wife's life. But the moment she opened her eyes, she walked out of that hospital holding the hand of his best friend. Now imagine this. You sell your dream, you give up your fortune, you trade every late night, every sacrifice just so the woman you love can live. And the price for her heartbeat is your heartbreak. But what if the betrayal wasn't what it looked like? What if the man he trusted most wasn't just after his wife, but after everything he owned? Because when Ethan Cole signed those papers to save her, he didn't just sell his company. He signed away the only thing that could expose a secret worth millions. And then, this happened. At 9:12 a.m. on a bright Thursday in Seattle, Ethan Cole pressed his pen against the final line of a contract that ended 15 years of sweat, ambition, and sleepless nights. The Coltech sale closed in 7 strokes of ink. His reflection in the glass table looked like a stranger's, tired eyes, jaw locked, wedding band flashing under the boardroom lights. Across from him, the buyer's smile was polished, empty, mechanical. A notary stamped the final page. That sound, one hollow thud of rubber, felt like a gavel slamming shut on his old life. At 9:54 a.m. in a white room across town, a cardiac surgeon barked, "Restart," and slammed a palm on Grace Cole's chest. The monitors screamed, then steadied into rhythm. Her heart was beating again. Ethan was alive but not living. Grace was living but not his. He had done it, sold Coltech for $168 million to fund an experimental surgery that insurance wouldn't touch. The doctors warned him she had less than a week. So he liquidated everything. His dream became her heartbeat. When they wheeled her out of recovery, she looked almost ghost-like. The color was gone from her lips, her skin pale as a pearl. Ethan stood by her bed, whispering her name, but she didn't hear him. Maybe it was the medication. Maybe it was something deeper. He didn't know it then, but this silence would echo louder than any goodbye. Later that evening, Ethan found himself by the vending machines, stale coffee burning his tongue, when the recovery nurse walked up to him. "Mr. Cole," she said softly, "your wife asked to change her post-op proxy this morning." He froze. Her what? Her legal proxy, the person authorized to make her medical decisions. Ethan's breath caught. She changed it to who? The nurse hesitated, then whispered, "Liam Hart." Liam. His best friend. His business partner. The man who stood beside him since college. For a second, the air around Ethan thinned until even breathing hurt. Across the hall, Grace appeared, frail but standing, and 4 poles squeaking beside her. And next to her, Liam. He was holding her bag. His hand brushed the small of her back like he belonged there. Grace didn't look back at Ethan. Not once. Flashback 6 years earlier. A summer afternoon on a Tacoma beach. The 3 of them laughing, beer bottles in hand. Grace, wind whipping her hair across her face, saying, "I feel safe with you too. Like the triangle can't break." Ethan smiled back then. He didn't know triangles break into sharper pieces. Back to now. The elevator at the end of the hallway opened. Grace stepped in with Liam. Before the doors closed, she turned her head slightly, eyes dull, mouth trembling, but said nothing. The triangle was gone. Then a delivery guy appeared beside Ethan, holding a manila envelope. "For Mr. Cole." Ethan signed and opened it. Inside, photocopies of legal documents. Prenuptial agreement, Addendum C. Grace's signature scrawled at the bottom. Witness, Liam A. Hart. The clause circled in red. In the event of material liquidation to fund medical emergency, community property rights to proceeds are waived by Grace Cole. His chest tightened. Grace had signed away any right to the fortune he just risked everything to earn, and Liam had been there to witness it. Ethan staggered into the chapel down the hall. It smelled of candles and sanitizer. He stared at the flickering lights, trying to find sense in the chaos. The surgeon's earlier words echoed in his head. "You were decisive. We almost lost the window at 8:45. That window? What window? Who decided it had to be closed so soon?" His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. A woman's voice, low and controlled, said, "If you want to know why she left with him, meet me at the Savoy at noon tomorrow. Don't bring Liam." The line went dead. Ethan stood there in silence, his reflection faint in the chapel glass. He had given up his life's work to save hers. Now someone had taken both. He pocketed the envelope and whispered to himself, "All right, tomorrow we start cutting out what's killing this." And with that, Ethan Cole walked out of the hospital into the sharp, colorless daylight, ready to find out what kind of monster wore the face of his best friend. The Savoy Hotel was one of those places where the coffee cost more than a decent dinner and silence was part of the bill. Ethan Cole sat alone in a corner booth, back to the wall, a habit Liam had taught him years ago: always see the exits. Now the irony stung. At exactly noon, a woman slid into the seat across from him. Short black bob, trench coat, red lipstick like armor. She moved with the coolness of someone who'd rehearsed this moment in her head 100 times. "Ethan Cole," she said, eyes sharp but tired. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I almost didn't," Ethan said quietly. "But you called." She set her sunglasses down, folding them like a weapon. "Vanessa called her," she said. "I'm Liam's problem." Ethan frowned. "Meaning?" "Meaning," she said, leaning forward, "I'm his mistress." The word hit like a slap across the booth. Ethan didn't flinch. Not visibly. But his pulse betrayed him. Vanessa waited for a reaction that never came, then smirked. "You're calmer than I expected." "I stopped expecting honesty from people close to Liam a long time ago," Ethan said. "Why are you here?" She reached into her bag and slid a manila folder toward him. Inside, screenshots, bank receipts, a copy of a condo lease in South Lake Union. One payment stood out, $425,000 transferred from Cascadia Bridge Partners LLC to Cole Family Trust Medical, 2 days before Grace's surgery. Ethan scanned the papers, brows furrowed. Where did this money come from? "From Liam," Vanessa said. "Or rather, one of his shell companies. He told me it was to help a friend's wife." Ethan looked up sharply. "He told you that?" She nodded. "He said you were too proud to sell the company. Said if he didn't step in, Grace would die waiting." Her voice wavered slightly. "He made himself sound like a hero. I believed him. I didn't know he was setting you up." Vanessa's fingers shook as she reached for her coffee. "You think you're the only one he lies to, Mr. Cole? He promised me a life in Napa. Said once this deal cleared, we'd be done sneaking around. He said Grace would be gone, and I'd finally get peace." Ethan stared at her, every word sinking like a weight in cold water. "He said Grace would be gone?" Vanessa nodded, eyes wet but angry. "He didn't mean dead, not exactly. He said she wouldn't matter anymore." A long pause. The restaurant hummed with low jazz and money. Ethan finally asked, "Why tell me this now?" "Because he told me yesterday that I was temporary." Vanessa's mouth trembled. "He said when Grace's recovery was complete, he'd move her to Napa and keep me here for Seattle fun." Ethan's eyes hardened. "You realized you're disposable." Her laugh was brittle. "Exactly." She pulled another document from the folder, a notarized letter from a nursing home in Kent. Grace's father's account. Unpaid balance, $312,000. Below, a note threatening legal action against any family asset. Vanessa whispered, "He called them. Told the administrators to harass Grace, scare her into signing whatever he put in front of her. He said fear made people obedient." Ethan's throat tightened. "She told me something about her father. I didn't listen." "You couldn't have known," Vanessa said. "He engineered everything. The calls, the pressure, even the witness on that forged medical proxy." Ethan froze. "Forged?" Vanessa nodded, sliding a hospital schedule across the table. "The nurse who signed it wasn't even on duty until 10 a.m. But the document was time-stamped 7:32. Liam forged the proxy so he could control every medical decision during surgery." Ethan clenched his fists, remembering the surgeon's words. "You were decisive. We almost lost the window at 8:45. That window wasn't medical. It was manufactured, forced to corner him into selling fast." Vanessa lowered her voice. "He never loved Grace. He wanted what you had, your company, your control, your legacy. You were his obsession. She was just his weapon." Ethan's jaw set. "He's sloppy when he's winning," he murmured, almost to himself. "What?" Vanessa asked. "Something he taught me in college," Ethan said, standing. "He gets arrogant right before he falls." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small gray USB drive. "I've been watching him too. That's why I added a clause when I sold Coltech." Vanessa blinked. "Clause?" Ethan smirked faintly. If fraud by any related party is tied to the sale, ownership reverts to me. You didn't know that. The buyer added it to protect themselves. But it's about to become my weapon. He pocketed the drive, voice cold. You said you wanted to destroy him, Vanessa. Tonight you'll get your wish. Her brow furrowed. What do you mean? There's a Mercy Pacific donor gala tonight. He'll take Grace there to show off his new life. That's where I'm going to cut his story open. Vanessa hesitated. If you expose him publicly, what happens to her? Ethan paused, eyes steady. I don't want to hurt her. I want to save her from him. Vanessa stared at him for a moment, then nodded. Then let's dissect him. Her phone buzzed on the table. Liam's name. A text. Savoy at noon. You there? Vanessa exhaled shakily. He's nearby. Ethan's phone vibrated too, unknown number again. A voice on the other end hissed, robotic, distorted, Stop digging coal, or your wife's new heart won't be the only thing that stops. The line went dead. Vanessa looked terrified. What was that? Ethan stood, eyes like stone. That, he said, was confirmation we're close. He tossed a few bills on the table, pocketed the folder, and walked toward the door. Vanessa followed, heels clicking like gunshots on marble. Outside, Seattle's sunlight hit them like judgment. Ethan adjusted his coat. Let's go ruin a gala, he said. The ballroom of Mercy Pacific shimmered like a diamond under artificial stars. Chandeliers cast golden light over tables dressed in white silk and fine china. Cameras flashed. Waiters floated through the crowd with trays of champagne. The annual donor gala had one purpose, to honor saviors. Tonight, Liam Hart was one of them. He arrived arm in arm with Grace, who looked breathtaking in a silver gown that skimmed her healed frame. Her scar, faint and pale across her chest, peaked above the neckline, a quiet reminder of the price that had been paid. To the audience, she looked like the picture of a woman reborn. To Ethan Cole, standing at the back of the room, she looked like a ghost who'd been rewritten. He'd chosen a simple tuxedo, no bow tie, his posture calm but alert. Beside him stood Vanessa Calder, transformed from the wounded mistress to a woman on a mission. Her black dress shimmered just enough to blend with the guests but not enough to be noticed. Every step of this night was calculated, every move a setup for exposure. Vanessa whispered, "He doesn't know you're here yet." "He will," Ethan replied. "Let him think the stage is his." The host, a polished hospital VP, stepped up to the podium. "Tonight we celebrate generosity, the lifeblood of innovation and compassion." Applause echoed. "And we're honored by one special donor who went above and beyond to save a life, Mr. Liam Hart." The crowd erupted in applause. Liam grinned, that same practiced grin that had sold 1,000 pitches. He adjusted his cufflinks, kissed Grace's cheek for the cameras, and stepped up to the mic. "Sometimes," Liam began, "you have to make hard choices. When a friend hesitates, you act. When love calls, you answer." Ethan's jaw tightened. When a friend hesitates. A blade disguised as a compliment. Liam was rewriting history in real time, making Ethan the coward and himself the savior. From across the room, Grace stood still, her glass trembling. Vanessa watched her carefully. "She doesn't look proud," Vanessa murmured. "No," Ethan said, "she looks trapped." As the applause died down, the host smiled. "And now, a special testimony from the patient whose life was saved, Mrs. Grace Cole." Grace hesitated. The card in her hand trembled. She looked at Liam, who nodded, smiling tightly. "Go on," he mouthed. Grace stepped to the microphone. Her voice wavered at first. I'm grateful. For everyone who helped me." She glanced at Liam. "For the people who made hard choices." Then, her eyes drifted toward the back of the room and found Ethan. For the first time in months, their gazes locked. Grace froze. A whisper rippled through the crowd as Liam's expression faltered. Vanessa leaned toward Ethan. "She didn't know you'd be here." "Good," he said quietly. "Truth hits harder when it's unannounced." Grace looked back at the crowd, tears threatening. 3 nights before my surgery," she said, voice trembling, "I started getting calls. People threatened to evict my father from hospice unless I signed financial documents. I didn't know what I was agreeing to. I just wanted the calls to stop." The room fell silent. Liam took a half step forward, trying to grab the mic. "Grace, you're tired, let me." She pulled the mic away. "No, Liam. I'm not tired. I'm done." Her voice grew stronger. "You told me Ethan wouldn't sell the company, that he'd rather keep his money than save me. You made me believe he'd given up. You forged my medical proxy so you could control everything while he signed away his life's work." Gasps filled the ballroom. The host stammered. Ethan didn't move. He didn't need to. His silence was power. Liam's face flushed red. This is insane. You're confused, Grace. They're confusing you. He turned to the audience. She's under medication. Save it, a new voice interrupted. The hospital's compliance officer, a stern woman in a navy suit, stepped forward holding a folder. Our investigation confirms irregularities in Mrs. Cole's medical documents, including a forged witness signature. We've already notified the authorities. Cameras began flashing. Reporters whispered. Liam's mask cracked. Vanessa smiled faintly. Lights, camera, confession. Grace took a step back, breath shaking. I was scared. He made me sign things I didn't understand. I thought Ethan wouldn't come for me, but he already had. The audience turned as Ethan finally stepped forward. Every head followed him like gravity. He didn't look at Liam first. He looked at Grace. I never stopped choosing you, he said softly. Grace covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. Liam's rage boiled over. You think this changes anything? You think you can humiliate me and walk away clean? From the mezzanine above, two plainclothes investigators began descending the stairs, their badges glinting under the chandeliers. Ethan's expression didn't change. You're right, Liam. It doesn't change anything for me. He turned slightly, meeting the compliance officer's eyes. But it changes everything for you. The woman nodded, raising a hand. Security moved in quietly, discreetly. Liam looked around in disbelief, sweat beating at his temple. Then Vanessa froze. On the balcony above, she spotted a man in a navy suit watching the chaos unfold, Gideon Rusk, the private equity shark who had bought Coltech. He wasn't clapping. He was signaling a waiter. The waiter slipped a note onto a tray and handed it to Liam. Liam opened it. 4 words scrawled in bold black ink. Lose the dead weight now. He looked up, panic and realization mixing in his eyes. His allies were gone. Ethan's phone buzzed, one message from his lawyer, Clause 8.3b, triggered. Ownership reverting pending fraud confirmation. For the first time that night, Ethan allowed himself to breathe. Grace stepped back from the podium, the crowd in stunned silence. She looked at Ethan, eyes full of pain and something like gratitude. Liam's voice cracked as the agents reached him. You'll regret this, Cole? Ethan met his gaze. No, he said quietly. You will. The ballroom erupted in chaos, flashes, whispers, sirens outside, the glittering illusion finally shattered. And as security led Liam through the back exit, Ethan looked once more at Grace. She mouthed one word through her tears, why? He whispered, just loud enough for her to see his lips move. Because I had to save you, one last time. Outside the ballroom, the night air was sharp and clear. The gala's golden glow spilled through the glass doors, fractured by the flashing red and blue lights from the patrol cars lined along the curb. The hum of cameras, murmurs of onlookers, and the low drone of police radios filled the air. Liam Hart was standing near the steps, flanked by 2 detectives in plain clothes. His tuxedo jacket hung off one shoulder, his once perfect composure shattered. Mr. Hart, one detective said evenly, reading from a folder, you're under investigation for wire fraud, document forgery, and coercion related to the Mercy Pacific Medical Trust. Liam tried to laugh, but it came out cracked. You need me, he said, desperate. Without me, you'll never untangle the money trail. I built it to be invisible. The detective raised an eyebrow. We've already got someone who knows the map. He nodded toward Vanessa Calder, who stood at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed, face unreadable. Liam's voice turned sharp. You think she'll save you? She's been in on it too. Vanessa didn't even flinch. I was in his lie, she said calmly. Now I'm in the truth. The crowd parted as Ethan and Grace stepped forward. Grace's eyes were swollen from crying, but her posture was steady. Ethan stood beside her not as a husband claiming victory, but as a man who'd seen every version of love. The one that built, the one that broke, and the one that forgave. Detectives led Liam toward the waiting cars. His voice trailed behind him. You'll regret this, Cole. You think you're the hero? You're nothing without me. Ethan watched in silence. That's where you're wrong, he said softly. I was nothing because of you. As the car door slammed, Grace exhaled shakily. Is it really over? Ethan glanced at the flashing lights. It's ending, he said. Over takes time. A tall man in a navy suit approached, Gideon Rusk, the private equity shark who'd once owned Ethan's company. He was composed, professional, but his tone held a note of resignation. Mr. Cole, he said, about the reversion clause 8.3b. My legal team confirmed the trigger. The fraud linked to Hart's shell company voids the original sale. Coltech is yours again. Grace's eyes widened. Ethan stayed still, unreadable. So you're just giving it back? Rusk smirked faintly. Not giving. Complying. You were clever to insert that clause. Protecting the buyer from fraud also protected you. My investors don't like headlines, Mr. Cole. Consider this a clean separation. Ethan studied him. And your fixer in Napa? Rusk's smirk faded. Already terminated. Permanently. He hesitated, then added quietly, decisive love, Mr. Cole. Just in business form. Rusk turned and walked away, leaving Ethan with a document folder and the weight of everything that had come undone. For a long moment, neither Ethan nor Grace spoke. Then Grace said, voice trembling, you knew, didn't you? About the clause. About Liam. I suspected, Ethan said. But I couldn't move until he did. He needed to reveal himself. She swallowed hard. I thought you'd never forgive me. Ethan met her eyes. Grace, I don't hate you. You were drowning. He made you think I was the one holding you under. Grace's tears returned, quiet this time. He said you'd never sell. That you loved your company more than me. I sold everything, Ethan said softly. And I'd do it again if it meant saving you. But love shouldn't require destruction. It should heal. She stepped closer, hesitant. And what about us? Ethan looked down, the answer already there. We're part of something that nearly killed both of us. We need to let it heal separately. Grace nodded, tears catching the light. Then let me help fix what I broke. Let me make something good from it. Ethan tilted his head. You already can. He handed her a folder with a single page inside. The Grace Initiative, he said. A foundation to protect patients and families from medical debt coercion. The first step starts with Mercy Pacific. Grace's hand trembled as she opened it. You named it after me? I named it after what I lost, Ethan said. And what you survived. She smiled through tears. I want to build it. Not as your wife, just as Grace. That's how it should be, he said gently. A few steps away, Vanessa watched silently, then turned to leave. Ethan caught her wrist lightly. You don't have to disappear, he said. Vanessa met his eyes. After tonight, I need to. Ethan nodded. Then disappear with purpose. Testify. Start over. She smiled faintly. You're a strange man, Ethan Cole. I've been called worse, he said. As Vanessa walked off into the night, Grace folded the papers to her chest, whispering, Thank you. Ethan exhaled slowly. The sound of police radios faded, replaced by the hum of city life returning to normal. He looked up at the Coltech building in the distance, his name still faintly visible on the rooftop sign. It wasn't victory he felt. It was clarity. He took out his phone and called his lawyer. Start the audit Monday, he said. We rebuild from zero. No shadows. No partners like him ever again. When he hung up, he glanced one last time toward Grace. She was speaking with reporters, calm and poised, the woman he once loved finally free of fear. He smiled, sad, peaceful, and turned away. For the first time in months, Ethan Cole walked into the cold Seattle night with nothing to lose and everything to begin again. Because in the end, when he sold his company to save her life, he thought he lost everything. But what he really sold was his old self. And then this happened. He found peace. What are your thoughts on this story? Please leave your comments, like, share, and tell us where you are watching from.